Hello everyone. Oh, I have this my shadow behind me. Sorry. Hi everybody. Well, Veronica, you don't sleep. Thanks for joining. Thanks Sassy B Clutches for joining. Thank you. It's Jade for joining. Sassy B says present. I'm also live on Facebook. I'm trying not to leave out my Facebook people. I'm coaching by Tamu over there on Facebook. And as you know, I'm sorry for all the shadow in the back. Look at that shadow. You're all gonna ignore the shadow, right? Sorry about that, but it is what it is. I'm here, I'm present, I'm live. So I'm Dr. Tamu of Innovative Education and Training Solutions and Coaching by Tamu. And tonight I'm here to talk about growth. I was already going to bed, but I was like, no, I'm gonna come on and do it. Otherwise, I'll just get caught up. And as you know, I love head wraps. This wrap is by one of my Level Up ladies, longtime client, Imara Designs. So you can hit her up on Instagram. That's her Instagram name. So Sassy V Clutches says, lol, I love listening to you. Keep thinking about what you said about self-care. Yes, self-care is important. Future self is important. All of these things are important. So I'm talking about growth today. And the reason I'm talking about growth, I'm talking about the commandments of growth, right? Yeah. And the reason that I'm talking about the commandments of growth is because I started my venture wanting to help women grow. Yes, your future self. So share the live for me. Let me do some sharing here. All right, so let me do some sharing. And the reason I'm talking about growth is because I started my entire enterprise, all of my enterprises, really because I wanted to see people grow their lives and their livelihoods, okay? And it's really important to do that for us women in the Caribbean. And this is because if you look around us, and I'm sure this is the same everywhere in the Caribbean, you see that the big brands are brands that are owned by men. I'm not hating on the men, I'm just saying. And the big brands are owned by men, the big companies are run by men, etc. And men are out there, making all the money. And, I started Innovative Education and Training Solutions so that I could empower people to grow themselves, their lives, and their livelihoods, right? And by their lives, I mean their personal development, primarily through education, because I am an educator by training and profession. And, I have the online CAPE classes. If you want online CAPE classes, just send me a DM. And I've had that venture since 2012. I am moving into emerging technology for children as well as part of that. And of course, sorry, I think I want to sneeze. Oh, of course, I have my entrepreneurship venture, but I focus primarily on women and having them scale and grow their businesses. And I already told you why. And I've just realized that all I do really is an effort to grow people, okay? Right? An effort to grow people, an effort to scale people, and that's what I am focusing on. And I've been using the hashtag Molding Mogul Minds for that emerging tech venture, but I think I'm going to combine everything that I'm doing into one platform here at Coaching by Tamu. Because at the end of it all, at least on Instagram, And on Facebook, I think I maybe might just do everything on the Tamu Petra ground. I'm not sure. But the reason is that I am the one who is doing all these things, and it's part of my brand, this concept of growth and scaling oneself and one's ventures. And the thing is, you can't scale yourself, you can't scale your venture if you're not scaling yourself. So anyway, I'm here to talk about the growth commandments. So do share the live. I know people might be out partying. I think there is something in St. Kitts tonight, so you watch it on the replay. But if you're at home, do join me. The growth commandments, okay? So I want to talk about what are the things you need to grow. And I'm really talking about business, but you know what? When I looked at my growth commandments, you can apply these growth commandments to everything, and you know, your personal life and your business. So let's talk about commandment 1. So commandment 1 of the growth commandments is, in order to grow, you have to have a mogul mindset. You writing? If you're not writing, you should write. If you're joining us on the replay, it's Dr. Tamu of Coaching by Tamu and Innovative Education and Training Solutions. All right? So the first thing you need to have is a growth mindset, a mogul mindset, not even a growth mindset. I want us to have a mogul mindset. And why? Because if we link that back to the future self conversation that we had, you want to think big. You want to think what you're going to be in the future, and the future requires you to have a mogul mindset now. So what is a mogul mindset? A mogul mindset is the ability to see yourself doing mogul things, to see yourself as the CEO of your brand, the CEO of your life, okay? So you cannot grow anything if you think small. And here are some clues to help you know if you have a mogul mindset or you need to work on getting a mogul mindset as number 1 in the growth commandment list. You are struggling with a mogul mindset if you describe yourself and or your business in diminutive terms, meaning you use small words or adjectives that mean small, little, to describe what you do and the impact you make. So a lot of times with female entrepreneurs in particular, right? And don't get me started on that. For female entrepreneurs in particular, they come and they say, or they introduce themselves and they say, yes, you know, I am Dr. Tamu and I have a small business doing this. Or I have a little business on this side. I have, doing a kind of little thing from home. You know, all of these, diminutive terms that show that you do not have that mogul mindset. Because if you are describing yourself and your business in these terms, then it means that you are struggling to see yourself as a mogul. And so the first thing that is required as one of the first commandments of growth and scaling is to have a mogul mindset, to begin creating that mogul mindset. That's very important. Next in the growth commandments list is you have to create strategic networks. Now, Caribbean people, especially women, we are not good at networking, and we're not good at understanding what networking actually is. We think networking is just going around and talking, to people at an event. That is not networking at all. And actually, I had a networking event planned online, and I had postponed it. I think that was around in May, but I'm going to relaunch that, probably more like by the end of the year or something. but I'm going to do it like a virtual event in a virtual space with sponsors and so on. Not a webinar, but a conference space, all virtually with rooms and avatars and all of that. But let's get back to strategic networks. Now, when I did my doctorate, I studied social entrepreneurship networks, and these are networks that entrepreneurs require in order to grow their business. And when I say social networks, I'm not talking about YouTube, Twitter, and so on. We're talking about things called strong and weak networks, bridging and bonding networks. And of course, we can learn more about that at other times, in other fora. But what is important to understand is that networks bring you resources that you would not have had access to. And so, if you are going to grow, remember, you have to determine where you're going, that future self, right? That future self for yourself and your business. And then you have to figure out, well, what are the types of people that I am going to have to begin relating to, talking to, networking with, etc., in order to get in these spaces, get these different opportunities, get more knowledge. The reason you're not growing is because you have the same circle. You have the same circle, and that's not going to help you grow personally or professionally or in business. It's just not. And so there is an art, right, and an entire school of study, in research that just speaks to the types of networks that entrepreneurs should create in order to grow their business, and that professionals should create in order to advance in their careers. So Sassy V Clutches says truth. Yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth. If you think about yourself and where you're going and who you're hanging out with and the platforms you're on and even your friend list, everything, they're the same people. So how are you going to know anything new, different? How are you going to get fresh ideas? So networking is an art that Caribbean people, women in particular, do not do well. And so this is something I'll be delving more into because it is critical to growth. It is critical to growth. So that is commandment number 2. You have to begin to develop, nurture, and leverage a strategic network. And why do I break it down like that? I break it down like that because it's not enough to just develop the network, right? So developing is, recognizing the types of people you're going to need. But then it's one thing to recognize, but now you have to nurture them. Because a lot of the times they might be strangers and you just don't say, hey, stranger, I want you to do a little favor for me. That's not how it works. There's an art, there's an entire process to nurturing people so that they come into your network willingly. And then the last step is leveraging the network in order to get resources and partnerships and arrangements that you require for growth. And that is also a science to that, okay? So we said that you need a mogul mindset, commandment number 1. Commandment number 2 is the need for a strategic network. Then you are actually going to need a strategy. So you have your mindset on. Actually, strategy they're in no particular order, but if I had to put it in order, I'll put strategy as number 2, and this is why. You have to develop a strategy for getting to your future self in business or personally in order to determine the types of networks that you are going to require, right? And so this is important. Now sometimes we all do this in the beginning. I'm better now, but in the beginning we were all like this. You just kind of doing business and you kind of, putting stuff out and you post things online, but you don't really have a strategy. You don't understand things like critical success factors and understanding how to measure the success of a strategy through key performance indicators. These are all important things that are elements of your strategy. And so oftentimes we cannot grow because you do not have a growth strategy. Now there are many strategies like marketing strategies, etc., right? But we're talking about a growth strategy. What are the critical success factors that you require to grow? And how do I go about measuring how successful I have been in implementing these critical success factors, and what impact have they had on my business? This is something that I delve into a lot in the Level Up Ladies program, which is now completed. That was a 6-month program. We begin again in January of 2021. Hopefully we'll all be alive then. So we have mogul mindset. You gotta have that. First commandment of growth. Second commandment of growth, I'm reordering now, right, is strategy. The third commandment of growth is strategic network. And I put that so high up as a commandment because networks will get you into doors and making bigger money and bigger moves than any marketing strategy. As you begin to grow your business, the way that you market yourself is more through networks and not so much reliant on social media platforms. So you need a combination, but the higher you intend to grow, the more you intend to grow, the more you intend to scale, the more strategic your networks need to become, and the more you need to leverage networks and understand how to nurture those networks, right? So now I am talking about, what's this? The fourth commandment of growth. And the fourth commandment of growth is investment. And we have all struggled with this, right? I've struggled with it. And that's because when we are wanting to grow, we're often not in the best place to begin to invest. Like our money's tight, right? But that's when you have to grow. You invest. You obviously, maybe you can't invest $10,000 or so on, but you can invest little investments that will help you make more money, that allow you to make bigger investments, and that support your continued growth. So the question then becomes, well, what do I invest in? Good question. Good question. The answer is you invest in the things that are necessary to achieve your strategy. So that's why strategy comes so high up. So for instance, let us say that you are at a point in your business where you realize that you're not really taking off because you don't have the right networks. You need to meet more people, you need to know more things, you need to be more visible, you need to be in different spaces, but you have no idea how to begin to do that. So you will say, okay, well, what can I invest in? Well, maybe you invest in the strategic, how to network strategically seminar or workshop that I'll have. Maybe you'll invest in going to a business luncheon that has the type of people attending that will populate your strategic network, right? So how do I know what to invest in? You know what to invest in based on the strategy and where you want to be. That's how you know what to invest in. Especially when our resources are limited, We have to be smart. And that is why I said it's really important sometimes just to take like a phrase. So if your phrase is growth, let's use growth because we're talking about growth, right? If your phrase is growth and you want to grow, then you say, okay, I have $200 this quarter, this month, $300 that I can invest. Where do I put it? Well, I want to put it in resources that are going to help me grow. You don't want to put it in things that you have been traditionally putting it in. Now, you might say, well, Dr. Tamu Petra girl, how am I going to get money to invest in things? Well, let me tell you, I am not advocating this. But I have put things on my credit card that I felt were absolutely necessary. I'm not saying that you should do that, but I see it as an investment in myself. It's like a loan on myself, one. Two, I tell my clients all the time that every time they make a sale on anything, they need to put aside between, it depends, right? But 5 to 10% of that revenue in an account that's for reinvestment. So that way you're not scrambling when something is happening to find the investment money. So every time you make a sale, you say, all right, well, 5% of this goes into my reinvestment account. And this reinvestment, like I said, it can be to grow yourself, to grow your business, to grow whatever, but growth is required, okay? So that's a tip there, and that's something that I actually do. So next, we have team. Eventually, one of the growth commandments is that as you begin to grow and prepare for more growth, you are going to have to add to your team. You're going to need people to assist you. You're going to need people to help you, right? In business and in life. So you're going to have to add people. Now, I'm going to tell you that when you add people, it's not necessarily, you can do it in smart ways. It's not necessarily that you are hiring someone, a whole slew of people like you are a Fortune 500 company. But what you have to do is you have to identify, based on your strategy and your future self-articulation, who are the key people, like roles, that you need filled in order to grow, right? Or in order to implement the journey to the future self, right? Future venture, right? Future goal. So based on that, you begin to add team members like that, with the priority being on the person that is most necessary to get you to that future self. Understand? Veronica, what do you say? You get that? Right? Now, if you have children, especially teenagers, they can assist. That's adding to your team. Okay? It teaches them discipline. It teaches them how hard you have to hustle to feed them. So you can be creative. You can hire an intern, right? Someone who's coming in to learn and give them a stipend, right? Or find other ways to incentivize them. So for instance, you might get an intern from your local community college or high school. If maybe you want someone to do some little admin stuff for you, right? Because let me tell you, as you grow, you need to begin doing the things that CEOs do. And you have to begin to outsource the things that are taking up your time, that are necessary but are not making the big money. So for instance, think about it. If you are busy typing, let's say, letters or responses to people, or maybe doing proposals, like the typing of it. So maybe you've already done it, made your notes, but now you have to type it up or whatever. And it'll take you 2 hours, let's say, to get it all done. You could have been doing a proposal for another job. You could have been engaging in a workshop, things that have a bigger value if you could outsource those 2 hours. So, like Sassy V Clutches, you do so many things. Why can't you get an intern and you give them a swag bag, right? They can be rewarded with products from your line, and you only have them, and you don't need them to come anywhere. This is the world of the remote. You just need your laptop, your phone, even to be able to communicate via things like Zoom and these sorts of things. And yeah, Sassy B says she thought of this. So you have to add to your team in order to grow, because you can't grow with just yourself, Ihad. And your team, like I said, will vary depending on your strategic goals. It will vary depending on what your future self looks like. And remember, no big business ever started big. Everybody started small. And so when you think of hiring, especially if the things that you do can be automated, that's adding, even automation is adding to your team. Anything that takes the burden off of you to free up your time to do higher value work, make more money work, and to handle the things that need to be handled to get you to the future self that you want to be. So you have to grow your team. And let me tell you, growing your team is not easy. And I always tell my clients that as you grow, for every stage of growth, often you're going to change team members. So it is very rare that you start with, let's say you're starting with 3 people, an admin, a social media manager, and maybe, let's say, a proposal writer or a full-fledged marketer or something. As you grow and you make more money, you are going to need people with more and more expertise, and so your team is going to change as well. And this is natural, this is normal, and this, or you're going to restructure who's doing what in the team, and so this is fine. So you don't have to feel married to that, right? And if you make a mistake, well, you correct it and you move on. When you are hiring, though, for your team, you want to make some notes as to what exactly you're going to need them to do. What are the skills they should have. I used to do hiring, back in the day in the U.S. for a retail company. And part of the hiring, I would always tell managers that, listen, when you do your interviews, and when we do interviews, you are to listen for the clues about attitude more than aptitude. Well, let me say it like this, maybe not more. Attitude more than skill, right? Because aptitude means your ability to be able to grasp something. So yes, you want people to have a minimum standard of intellect that you have set, but you also want them to be more than robots. You want to figure out how can they work autonomously, right? Independently. How much initiative do they have? You can train for skill, but you cannot train for attitude. So when you hire someone with a bad attitude, it's a waste of your time, okay? You don't have time to be teaching people how to have a good attitude. Right. So Sassy V says, like delivery, this takes up so many time, yeah. So you need a process around that. You need something around that. You can't be doing that because you could be creating, right? So you need to be doing something else. So it's important to add to your team the key positions first. Now, I want to talk to the people who are on here and might be thinking about, well, how does this relate to me as an individual? Like, if I don't have a business, but I'm into growing myself, how can I add to my team? I don't have a team. I'm not hiring. I'm employed by someone. you can add a success network group to your team. So this is a group of people from diverse fields that you know who are like-minded, ambitious, driven, etc., who can hold you accountable and who you all can roll out your future selves in front of. And you can all brainstorm about getting to that future self, and you commit to some action steps, each person in the team for his or her individual future self. And then you meet back again and you say, okay, well, this is what I did, or I faced some challenges, etc. And so you have a support team or a board of advisors. Okay? A board of advisors. Hi, Abigail. So if you're just joining me at this very late time, it's Dr. Tamu, Coaching by Tamu, Innovative Education and Training Solutions. And we are here talking about the commandments of growth. And so we're almost down to the last commandment. So I'm going to recap. In order to grow, there are some commandments you must abide by. And these are, number one, you have to have a mogul mindset. No mogul mindset, you can't grow. You can't grow personally, you cannot grow professionally. It is impossible. Your ability to grow will be stymied, stifled, stagnant. The next thing is that you have to have a strategy, right? You have to map out how you are going to get to your future self. So you must have a strategy. The next thing that you need to have as a commandment is that you have to have a strategic network. Oh, as you say, didn't get an alert for a live broadcast. I didn't send it out to everybody because I was like, it's 10:30. It's like late. So sorry. I think there's something you can press now that alerts you when I go live. I think. Check it out and see. Your strategic network. And I talk about the fact that there are three parts to building a strategic, to having a strategic network. The first is developing the network the right way. The second is nurturing that strategic network. And the third thing is leveraging that strategic network. And there's an actual science behind it. And I would have studied that as part of my doctoral work. I am obsessed with networks. And the reason I'm obsessed with networks is because I am very clear that, and the science is very clear, and the data is very clear. Anybody who knows me, they don't know this, but I love data, right? And the data is very clear that strategic networks build businesses and build careers. And what I have realized is that in the Caribbean, particularly among women, we do not know how to build strategic networks for personal growth. We don't know how we go. Okay? And earlier I had mentioned that I had a strategic network workshop planned, like in May, but with COVID and whatever, it was going to be a virtual network. I postponed, but I've already contacted the speakers again, and I'm going to be doing that closer to, I'm feeling like November-ish, around there, right? And I'm going to be doing it on a conferencing platform, so it's not going to be a webinar. It's going to, be a virtual space where you can have sponsors, where you can speak with the speakers, where you can ask questions. It's going to be cool. So I'm looking at a few of those live event software pieces now. So absolutely says we don't know how to leverage networks, and when you do, people term it as being opportunistic. You are right on with that. And that's because we don't understand networks, and we don't understand that people of a different color, right? They do networking very well, and that's why their businesses grow so well. Hi, Tiana, my student. You're just coming in when we are wrapping, but it was real good, so make sure you're looking at the replay. So we're going down the commandments of growth, Tiana. And I said the commandments of growth, mogul mindset, strategy, strategic network. That's where we were when you came in. I'm recapping. And next is investment. And you have to invest in order to grow. And the more you want to grow, the more you have to invest. But you do so in stages. I was given a tip earlier that every time you make a sale, you should put aside between 5 and 10% of your revenue into a separate account, which is just for reinvestment. Okay? So look at what I said about all of that on the replay. Then the next commandment, and this is where we were, is building your team. You have to build a team in order to grow. And I spoke about what all the ways that you can build a team and what are the things you have to look for when you're building a team. Then the last thing in the commandment of growth, the My Growth Commandments, is time. People don't even understand how much time it takes to grow a business to scale. It takes time. Everything is a phase. And so sometimes we get frustrated because we are working so hard and we're not seeing that future self that we had spoken about, that future being that we want, that future space we want to be in, that $500,000, that $1 million revenue. We're not seeing it. But what you don't understand is that you first have to be able to make 10,000, then make 100,000, and all of these are steps to which you apply the growth commandments to every phase. So every phase you apply the growth commandments. You just apply them differently, and what each one entails is a little different. So for instance, let's say that you're now making on average, let's say $20,000 from your business for the year. Let's go there. Let's start at that level. And in order to triple that, your mindset has to shift, right? So you now have to shift your mindset to believe that you can triple that, and to begin making the types of investments that you're requiring. Do you need better quality marketing? You definitely need different strategic networks and learning how to leverage different types of networks to get you to that next phase. You have to invest in different resources, in different expertise to get you to that next phase. You might have to add or take away from your team or reprioritize which team roles get more money based on where you're trying to go. So first, maybe it was about visibility. So you were doing a lot of Instagram and marketing and so on. But then you begin to say, well, I have to begin doing more partnerships and doing events or whatever. So maybe you need someone who is going to do a different type of marketing. You no longer need a social media person. You need a PR person. You need a strategist. So you might shift who's in your team, right? So over time, you have to reapply the commandments of growth, right? So that's it for me. Let's see what's coming up. So I want to ask some advice on this. I put it in my stories. I ask an advice even though I feel like I already know what I want to do. But I have Edu Innovative. I still have Coaching by Tamu. But I've been realizing that even though I'm doing it on the education side and the entrepreneurship side, the thing is that the goal is the same, and it's really to grow and scale people's lives and livelihoods by education and entrepreneurship and so on. And so I'm thinking of moving, at least on Instagram, everything over to Coaching by Tamu, and just talk about all the things that Tamu is doing and Tamu's businesses are doing in one spot. So let me know what you think about that. And of course, when you're listening on the replay, I'd like to hear what you think. So send me a DM. Of course, if you want to engage with me, want me to match you with some of my resources, we're in business or whatever, or you want CXC classes, send me a DM. All right? So thank you for joining me at this ungodly hour at 11 o'clock, but I meant I was going to do the live. Have a good night. Bye. Okay, so Absolutely says yes. I think that's a good idea. Me too. Because I was just talking about time, and I don't have time and resources to be all over. Because at the end of the day, it's all me at the end, right? It's all my creations. So have a good night. Thank you. It's Dr. Tamu, Coaching by Tamu, and Innovative Education and Training Solutions. Bye, people.